Powers.
And I'm Shelby Powers, and today we'd like to teach you about limb salvage, amputation, and prosthetics.
I was injured in 2005 originally, and then the most recent injury is actually November of 2016. So I was injured by a IED blast in the Middle East. My first injury was this leg, so I took a piece of shrapnel through right here below the knee, and it came around and came out through my thigh. And that was in Iraq in 2005. I didn't lose any limbs from that, but it was a substantial recovery. A year and a half to wear shoes and about 2 years to get to running, being mobile. And this leg, they tried saving the limb. I made it to Germany. I was in a medical-induced coma at the time.
It took longer than I thought it would for him to get a prosthetic. And I think too, you don't think about it when you see people who are wearing, a leg, who are up and running around. You don't think how a lot of them go home and get back into a wheelchair. So, a lot of amputees still use wheelchairs at home, and always will.
I'm Bill Longwell. I'm an active duty captain in the United States Army. I was injured by a pressure plate improvised explosive device on 23 June 2011 in Afghanistan during a dismount patrol. Finally started weight bearing in December, early January of 2011, 2012, and then kind of reached a point that summer where I wasn't making any additional gains. I could get around without a cane, but I couldn't walk for very far, definitely couldn't run. And then started seeing different doctors and saw this one ortho who was like, we'll have you get the IDEO device, the Intrepid Dynamic Exoskeletal Orthosis device, and see where you go from there. It's like a prosthetic running leg. So the pressure is diverted around my bad joint, which is my ankle in my case. The rods in the back is what gives and bends, and then the pressure is put up into the front of my knee. So it allows me to, quite frankly, do whatever I want to with it, versus when I don't wear it, I can kind of hobble around, but not for very long, very far. With this, I can literally do everything, go all day, jump out of airplanes, whatever I have to do.
My name's Ashlyn Kine. I am from South Boston, Massachusetts, and I was 9 when I had my first amputation. I was playing soccer, and I thought I twisted my knee, but it ended up persisting over 2 weeks, and so I went into the hospital, and then they did a bone biopsy, and they found out I had osteosarcoma, so they did 15 rounds of chemo and amputation, and another 15 rounds.
So I was injured in 2004 in a town called Iskandariya, Iraq. I had a brick-sized hole where my knee was, so they had to amputate my leg above the knee. So I went to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and after so many surgeries, I got to wear a prosthetic leg. So wearing a prosthetic leg, you have to deal with a prosthetic socket. So the socket is what interfaces with you and the prosthesis. So wearing a prosthetic socket day in and day out, staying on active duty, it was just a way to get the job done. So I retired a couple years ago, and I couldn't deal with the grueling pain day in and day out. And I could never find a perfect socket that fit such a short limb. So I started researching bone lengthening. I started researching different surgeries. And so I was told about a surgery called osseointegration. It's like a dental implant, but instead of in your mouth and attaching a tooth to it, they attach it directly to your femur, and that attachment attaches directly to your prosthesis. So you don't have to deal with a socket ever again.
My name is William E. Santos Jr. I joined the military back in 1980, and in 2006 I was deployed to Iraq, and I lost my arm to an IED explosion. I had a surgery done where they implanted a rod on the bone. It's called osteointegration. The new prosthetic device that I'm getting is just what I have right now. It's gonna have a band that goes around the residual limb, and that's gonna connect wirelessly through the circuits that are gonna go in the forearm. Now, once that's connected, all I had to do is just think about it. I wanna open the hand, close the hand, and it'll open and it'll raise the elbow up and down and turn it around and anything else that I wanna do with it. Targeted muscle reintervention is a process that enables patients with upper extremity amputations to control motorized prosthetic devices and regain sensory feedback. The procedure involves transposing nerves that formerly send signals to muscles in the hand to the muscles in the arms that are still intact. Now, every time I think about a movement, like if I want to open the hand, that'll trigger a movement in the muscle wherever it's situated at, and that will touch the sensor, which will cause the hand to do what I want it to do. First, they have to try to find the sites. Like in my particular case, if I'm not mistaken, I have 8 sites. So what they'll do is they'll put these little electrodes on that has like a meter, and they'll look for the sites. They'll ask us to think about opening, closing the hand, lifting the arm up or whatever, and from there, they'll separate them and say, okay, these are the muscles that are working if he opens the hand, and so on and so forth. And then it's just a matter of learning how to isolate them.
Stephanie Morris, United States Army Specialist. I was injured June 18, 2013 in Bagram, Afghanistan. We received indirect fire and 2 rocket-propelled grenades came in back-to-back. My initial injuries was a left femur fracture and right foot fracture. I was limb salvaged 3 years and I tried to save it. Being a female, I didn't know what to expect with amputation, and that wasn't the route I really wanted to take. But I made the decision last year, April 2016, and July 1st will be a year I've been amputated. It took me a while to make the decision to amputate. When I first got to Walter Reed, they wanted to amputate in 2013, but my mom's like, no, you guys do what you have to do to save her leg. And the more and more I tried to save it, the worse it got for me. When I first got in my prosthetic, I had it on maybe 10 minutes. And in physical therapy, they don't let you take your prosthetic home right away. You know, first day maybe 15 minutes, the next day you go to a half hour and you just work yourself up. You don't just go right into bending your leg all day. But even now, I'm almost a year out from amputation, but I still have some pain. Just back in March, I had to have another surgery because I had neuromas in my leg, and I have a lot of nerve pain still, but not as bad as before amputation.
There are a number of complications that can occur after an amputation. These include neuromas, phantom limb pain, and heterotopic ossification, among others.
Heterotopic ossification, patients can't spell that, most doctors can't either. Your body goes into hyper survival mode, and that's really all that HO is. Your muscles are grabbing these tiny pieces of bone and protein, and it makes this, because it's just, let's survive, let's grow, let's heal. And so I had a pretty large mass that was growing, and so the doctors didn't want to do anything about it. They said, hey, we're only going to go in and take out HO if it impedes you wearing a prosthesis or it's just too painful. So I had the HO removed in about 2004, probably into 2004.
Phantom limb pain is described as a burning, aching, or electric type pain in an amputated limb.
I have phantom pain still, once in a while. Usually when it's cold is when I really feel the most pain, but it's not something that'll interfere with my daily things, and it's not something that'll last the whole day.
For me, with phantom limb pain, I get a lot of electric zings, and sometimes I get machinery pulling off my toes. Sometimes I get it really bad. Sometimes I get like a chainsaw sawing into my calf. I use a lot of progressive muscle relaxation to combat phantom limb pain, and I use guided meditation sometimes. And then also TENS units really help me, the electrical stimulation.
The first time we went out to the mall, it really opens your eyes to see things that are technically ADA compliant but just don't work that well. So going through stores where someone has just pushed their acts close together, or trying to go eat somewhere, there are little lips everywhere that are just really hard to get over. And then the first time we went back to our house is 3 stories, and it was built in the 60s, and John doesn't fit in any of the bathrooms anymore.
Being a female amputee is kind of hard because our society kind of tells us a lot about how we should look and the different standards of beauty. And so when it comes to clothes and being an amputee, it's like the focus is always women's legs and stuff like that. I've noticed more since I've gotten my amputation. But for me, it's been hard trying to like rework my own idea of beauty.
We've gone so far right now in prosthesis, it's unbelievable. But there's a medical solution to this, and it is osseointegration. I'm at a point right now that I'm so pumped up that I'm going to be walking again in August, and it feels so good to say I'm never going to have to put a socket on ever again, and it's pretty amazing.